Alright, we're back with our third and final video for the Phoebe Mini Backpack. So we left off on step number 29. Honestly, because my camera just cut off. Like, I was thinking about stopping soon, and when I did stop, I got up and I saw that it had already stopped for me. So, we turned it right side out, through the pocket in the lining, and I pressed the about a 1/4 inch of the raw edges inside that pocket, and I'm going to top stitch that closed. But first, just kind of inspect your outside, make sure everything looks good, make sure that you don't have any weird puckers or anything that needs to be fixed. Once you are satisfied with that, then you can go ahead and sew this closed. So I'm just going to edge stitch like 1/8 of an inch, or even less if you can. Alright, now I'll go ahead and push that pocket down inside. Alright, and then you can go ahead and I see a thread in here I want to trim off while I see it. Alright, you can go ahead and zip that pocket closed. And now I'm going to unzip this pocket, or this zipper, and kind of flip this part inside out, I guess you would call it. And I'm going to iron just this top part away from the zipper so that we can top stitch here. So let me go press that and I will be right back. Okay, so I have pressed that away from the zipper. And now we'll just top stitch. And we're going to start on the side where the two zippers meet. Just make sure your lining isn't pulled up towards the zipper. And just kind of get down as far as you can without sewing on top of the other zipper. I'll just stitch a couple stitches and then back stitch a couple. Alright. And then just carefully all the way around, and as I go, I'm pulling the zipper away from the exterior and lining. Top stitching on this like teal color with purple thread has me a little nervous. And then when you get to the other side, just go down as close as you can to where those zippers meet. I guess I started like about 3/4 of an inch up from that join. So I'll just stop in the same place on the other side. And I ran out of bobbin thread again. Wow, this must be my lucky day. Not because I ran out of bobbin thread, but because of how it happened. Alright, I've got a couple other threads down here. So I just, as I notice any threads hanging, clip them so that at the end you're not, you know, trying to find all the threads and you miss some. And I only wound one extra bobbin. The first one was already half used because I used it on a different project. That second one is gone, and I only wound 2. So here I thought I was prepared, but not as prepared as I thought. Alright. So once you top stitch that, it really helps it to lay nice. I'm going to go ahead and pause this and rewind my bobbin. Alright, so we have a full bobbin now. Step 30 is to make the strap connectors. So I actually already folded them. So what you do is draw a line down the center lengthwise, and then fold each long edge into that center line and press, and then fold each short end to meet in the middle of the back and press, so that you now have a 3/4 inch by 1.5 inch piece. And then slide a D-ring onto the connector to one end and pin how can I pin it the best? I shouldn't struggle with something like that. Okay. So now we will, let's set this aside. So on your back exterior main panel, take your pattern piece and line it up. And this is also a good point to mark the centers of this as well. Top center, bottom center, and then trace. I cut the box out here that is for the strap placement or connector placement, and trace inside that box, and just make sure you're using something removable. Alright, line this up on the other side. And then trace the connector placement on that side as well. Okay, so you should have 2 connector placement marks. And then I'm actually going to double check my center marks just to make sure. I mean, the best way is to fold in half, because I feel like they're off just a tad. No, they seem pretty on. I might move it over just like a 1/16 of an inch, which probably won't make a difference. Okay. So now that I have that in place, I will place one of my connectors with the D-ring at the top covering that placement mark. I pulled the pin out, and now I'm pinning it to the main panel. So I'm afraid I'm going to pin my finger. Yeah, that didn't work so well. This is why I use clips. I like them a lot better. Okay. So that's pinned in place. Make sure you move your zipper pocket out of the way in the back. I might as well pin both at the same time. Alright, so now you will just top stitch around both. I like to start at the top and just sew as close as you can to the hardware. I'm going to use a shorter stitch length on this. Just okay, I must have not put my bobbin back in right or something. So I like to start sewing as close to the hardware as possible. Stitch all the way across, and then all the way back, and all the way back across. Be careful if you're sewing over your needle. I said sewing over your needle. That's definitely a pin. Alright, and then I'm going to back stitch one more time. If you're using vinyl or leather, you don't want to back stitch like that because it will perforate and it will actually cause it to rip off. So keep that in mind. I'm not sure if we'll be able to hear it on the video, but there's one of these loud teenagers walking up and down the street all day, yelling. Looking in my window. Did you hear him say hi to me? I was interested. All right. I think I might actually close my window now. I don't like people looking in my windows. Oh, thought for a second I was going to flip that over and have that zipper pocket caught in there anyway. Alright, so both connectors are now attached. Now we're going to make the interior slip pocket. Move this out of the way. Alright, so the interior slip pocket is 6 inches square, and the pattern calls for 2 lining pieces. Since I use my lining as the exterior contrast and the lining, I didn't have enough, and I thought a cute slip pocket would be nice too. So I cut one piece out of the same thing I used for the front pocket, and the inside piece is cut from the exterior fabric. So I'm just pinning these together, right sides together all the way around. All right, and you want to leave a 3-inch hole on the bottom for turning. You don't have to mark it, but I find it helpful to mark it for me. And you want to use a 1/4-inch seam allowance. Back stitch at the beginning. Alright, and when you reach your other line, back stitch again to secure. Trim the thread, and then we're going to cut the corners off. We're going to turn right side out. Let me get my timer ready. Alright, turn this right side out through the hole in the bottom. Well, and really the hole could be on any side. You'll sew it closed either with the top stitching or when you sew it to the bag. So it doesn't matter. Now when I turn it right side out, I have this, I don't know what it is. It came out of a turning tool, I think, for turning tubes right side out. And I just use it to poke out the corners. Some people use chopsticks, maybe like a better quality chopstick, not like a freebie throwaway kind. Those seem a little flimsy for this. I've used my scissors before, and that's not always a good idea. So, once you turn that right side out completely, and you see, like, to get the seams nice, I roll it between my fingers. And then you can make sure that it's really turned well, and then press it flat. See how it's nice and straight there along the top. So I'm going to go press this, and while I press that, I turn the hole in at the bottom, and then you can't see where we turned it. So I'll be right back. Alright, I pressed this, I turn that bottom line, or the bottom edge in. Now you'll top stitch across the edge, or the top, I'm sorry, top stitch along the top. You can do 1 row or 2 rows of top stitching if you want. Trim that well. Alright, now we are going to place this on the lining main panel. So, let's see, we want it to be centered and 3 inches up from the bottom. So, right sides together, press. The center is that center line. Right sides together, and finger press. While I have that pressed in half, I'm going to mark the center of the top and bottom. And 3 inches up from the bottom. Alright. 3 inches up from the bottom, and centered would be right there. And make sure that the top is centered. And then just go ahead and pin that in place. I'm really surprised that the pins I'm grabbing out of here are actually straight, and that one isn't. I have a super bad habit of just sewing right over top of them, even though you're not supposed to, and then hitting it with the needle, breaking my needle, bending my pins, all sorts of things. Alright, so we'll start here, and I'm going to backstitch really well because some stress will be on the top of that pocket as you take things in and out. But this is really nice to slide a phone into if you put your phone inside. Although there is that slip pocket on the back, which is probably handier for a phone. Alright, and that top stitch there just closed the turning hole that we left in the bottom. Back up this side, and then again back stitch really well here. And trim all the threads. Alright, we'll take the pins out. So now we are going to do the finishing method without binding. If you wanted to do binding, you would skip number 34 through 36 in the pattern and go to number 37. So if you are not binding, or I mean, I'm sorry, if you are going to use binding, make sure you sew this closed. You don't want that open. And at this point you would be placing these two panels wrong sides together, basting them together, but we are not doing that method. So no binding. We're going to set the lining panel aside, and I'm going to make sure this zipper is unzipped completely. And I grabbed the rest of my bag that has the gusset attached to it already. And I'm turning it inside out. Going to zip the zipper up so it's okay, inside out. So I am going to place this panel. How did I not mark? Oh, I did mark the centers with chalk. Okay, I'm going to place this panel right side down and match it up to the right sides, the exterior sides of the gusset. Match the centers first. And here we're going to be using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. maybe I'm not sure if I'll make another one of these or not. If I make another, then I'll go ahead and get a video of the binding portion of it. So find your center, match it to the center on the main panel. It's just really important to keep all your centers matched. All right, and then just ease everything in between. If you were sewing this on a domestic and you know your machine doesn't handle thicknesses or bulkiness well, you might want to trim the seam allowances away from the fleece, and that might help with that bulkiness. I know that personally my domestic would be able to handle this fine, so I think most should be okay. But just in case you know yours doesn't handle that well, then you might want to trim the fleece away from the seam allowances before fusing it. All right, you want to make sure that you don't have any puckers along the top. All right, then continue along and pin the other side. Always by the time I get to the end of the videos, I'm feeling done after sitting here talking to myself pretty much. All right, and if you feel like you're getting any puckers down in the bottom corners, smooth those out, and you can move a little bit of the excess fabric up. See, I'm doing that, readjusting it as I go along. Just really make sure that the top and bottom centers are always matched up. All right, so now that that's all pinned, I'm going to sew this together using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. When you sew next to the pocket here, make sure that you move that out of the way. I'll start on the side. Maybe I'll start on the bottom. Maybe I should have trying to decide if I should keep that top part unzipped, I think, because I'll add that into the instructions. It'd just be easier if I can get my hand inside there when I do this part. All right, so I just reached in through the pocket to unzip that. All right, so 1/2 inch seam allowance here, super important. And reduce my seam, or my stitch length back down to 3. Alright, now make sure you pull the pocket back out of the way. got a little string from the pocket cutter on my needle there. Alright, make sure as you sew the top that you're not sewing over any puckers. Just work them out as you go. That's what I like to use my little screwdriver for. And then also you can put the clips on if you're using one of these narrow feet. Put the clips just on the edge. That darn pocket. Okay, so I moved my clips out to the edge so it's still holding so things don't shift, and I can sew right next to it. Oh, they actually make longer clips. I guess I don't know how that would work with this anyway. I saw some longer clips I think that you can like sew right over. Not sure how that works. Or maybe you can't actually like stitch over them, but just the foot can go over them. Let's see how that could be helpful too. Yeah, definitely going to add to the instructions to unzip that main zipper first, because it's really helpful to be able to stick your hand inside of it. And here I'm folding that pocket out of the way. If you're not worried about stabbing yourself with needles or with pins, you might want to pin it back on itself. Alright, now back to the other corner, so just be careful again not to get any puckers. Trim my threads. And now what we're going to do, you can still leave this unzipped, that won't matter. Take this lining main panel and on the same side as your other lining pieces, we're going to put it down on top of there, and I'm folding everything in between. So this is the same as how we attach that front pocket to have no binding. And right here I'm matching up my centers. All the centers all the way through should match. I'll pin there. I'm going to sew this from this side directly over my last stitching. But I'm just really squishing everything. So if you used thick fabric, if you want to use canvas or vinyl or leather, I don't recommend this method. You'll want to use the binding method because it's just going to be too thick. It'll be too much to pull through that pocket at the end. So right now I'm really just going to match up all the edges with everything squished in between. And it's a little tricky, I guess, to get it all together, but I didn't find it difficult to sew personally. Jeez. I've made a couple of videos before, like on weekdays when I took the day off work, and I liked that because there weren't people outside. I feel like the grouchy old lady who would pop the kids' balls for coming into their yard, because I just want everybody to be quiet while I'm doing this. I feel like I can hear everything. Alright, so see, I have the one side pinned all the way around. Don't worry about this. We'll make sure that we work out any puckers. And again, if the lining kind of gets a little bigger, just make sure you always stitch around that same line from attaching the exterior main panel. My hands are cramping up. Alright, we're almost done. Finally. Alright, so here's what you have. Everything is squished between the lining main panel and the exterior main panel. This zipper is unzipped, super important. And you're sewing from the exterior main panel side. So the fusible fleece, that is the side that's up to your sewing machine right now, or up to your presser foot. And we're going to sew back over this stitching line where we attach that using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And it's just directly over that last stitching. So here you just want to be careful not to extend past that stitching line, because that will affect the exterior of your bag. If you feel like you have a little extra lining fabric, if you just kind of let it slide off the edge, you can trim that off and it won't hurt anything. So this method might not be the easiest, but I don't know. I feel like I'd prefer it to binding, because I really just don't like binding, but I understand that it's necessary sometimes. Drop-in linings, also, I understand they're necessary, but if I can avoid both, then why not, right? So I'm not really sewing through a ton. The hardest part really is just maneuvering everything around. Keeping it all squished together. And making sure I stay right along that first stitching line. If you don't have a super narrow foot like this, then I recommend it, because it's the best thing ever. Do you hear that my foot pedal squeaks when I push it? stitch instead. And now we're going to trim this seam allowance. There are no zippers sewn into it, so it's safe to trim. And I'm going to trim it down to, probably pretty short actually, so I'm going to say about 1/8 of an inch. Be careful not to cut your zipper pocket, and definitely don't cut through that stitching. Seems like it would just bust open like a, I don't know, like what, so I shouldn't have said like something. Alright, what kind of scissors do you guys recommend? High scissors? I really need to get something, or get these sharpened maybe. I have Gingers. I have my Tula Pink scissors over here. They're pretty good, but they have like, I must have cut a pin or something because they have a nick in them. Alright, so everything is squished in here. Are we ready for the big reveal? And it's going to look like a wrinkled mess at first anyway, so reach into your pocket, your zipper pocket, and carefully start pulling everything through the zipper. Now, if you wanted to have a bigger zipper, you probably could put something vertical on the back to make it a little longer, but without the other side of the vertical pocket being sewn into a seam or anything, when you put stuff in it, then it'll pull the pocket down weird. So that's why I didn't do that. Alright. So I'm going to make sure everything looks okay. Hopefully it does, because I really don't want to turn that back. And it does. Obviously needs pressed. So the bottom of this pocket will get turned inside just like the other one. And sewn closed. I'm just going to tuck it in for now and probably forget to sew it closed later. Here you can use a regular zipper. I used one that matches my other exterior zippers. When I press this, what I'll do is roll the seams like that and press and kind of do that all the way around and press. And then I'll do it along the front as well. You can also put your hand inside or put something else inside or put something on your hand. Don't burn your hand. But there we have it. The lining is not saggy, no binding, no drop-in. Alright, so we just need to make our straps now, and then obviously I need to press this bag, but see, we're at 41 minutes. So I already went ahead and made one of the straps here. And then the other strap, you'll just press it the same way as you did your handles, or your handle, one handle. So fold it in half and press that to crease the center. Open that fold back up and press each long edge all the way down the length into the center crease and press that, and then fold in half again, and you have a strap. So now we're going to top stitch down the long open edge first. And you can pin this or clip it to keep everything together or even double stick tape would work, double-sided tape. But I don't usually clip or pin my straps when I do this. And what you can't see is the other end of it. I have to like throw it up over my shoulder. So. Was not necessary, but all right, now we'll sew down the other long side. Alright, trim my threads from the other end. I actually trim this extra little bit of interfacing. Let's see if these scissors can handle it. Yeah, not really. Alright. Now, you want to take a slider and 2 swivel clips. So first you will insert the strap into the slider over the center bar. Alright, and from the wrong side, you want to press one end under by 1/2 inch and then slide it down so that it's close to the slider. So you can see here's my 1/2 inch, ends here. Alright, now I'm going to top stitch, or not really top stitch, I guess it's on top, but I'm sewing at the folded end of the strap. And then I just back stitch that a few times. You always want to make sure on your straps to back stitch. Alright. Alright, I'm actually, contrary to how I am, going to trim those later. So let's see, once you have that slid or sewed on, you want to slide on one of your swivel clips and then bring the end of the strap back and back up through with this part facing it. Does that even make sense? So this is like your right side of your strap. This is the wrong side. You want the wrong side facing the underside of the strap and bring that back up through the slider and back down over top of that. So here's the point where you make sure that your slider works. Make sure that nothing is twisted. If your swivel is on the inside, you can flip it to the outside. So everything is on there correct. I can't leave these threads. See? And that's why I should have trimmed them off, because now they're sticking out of there weird. And how am I going to get them off? Always trim your threads, never say later. How many people wait until the very end? Do you trim all your threads at the end of your project and leave them all hanging the whole time, or do you trim them as you go? Alright, so that is on. Now, take the other slider and slide it on the end of the strap. Press this under by 1/2 inch, and then under again by 1 inch. I would normally actually iron that too. Make sure that it's not twisted. You want the right side of this to be on the right side of this so that it folds to the back. So the back has this and this folding under. Alright. So now we'll backstitch. It's easier to do from this side. Close to the end where it's folded. And then once you've stitched that, near the end, or as close to the hardware as you can get, stitch across that strap there as well. Alright, and then trim those threads. Okay. So now that you have both of your straps done, you can pretend like I already pressed this bag, which I didn't, so it looks horrible. Oh, it's so wrinkly. That's the one bad part about smushing everything between. It gets super wrinkly. So the options for using this, you can clip the swivel clip to the top and to the bottom, one on each side. You can have it adjust at the top or bottom, however you prefer. Alright, so that will you wear that as a standard backpack. Okay, you can remove, how do I want to do this? Alright, I'm going to take this off completely. And then you can remove that bottom clip and clip it to this one to make this strap longer. And slip it over your head, and then it's like a sling bag. You can remove, we'll leave that one hooked. We'll remove this bottom one, clip it to the top, and lengthen. You could wear that as a crossbody, shorten it. You could clip both straps together if you want to make it a really long crossbody. Shorten it like this. You could carry it over one shoulder, or you can carry it by the handle. So, a variety of ways that you can carry that. I need to get this pressed and get pictures of it. And thank you for watching my video. If you have any questions, let me know. You can always join the Facebook group if you're not in there yet. Ask questions there. I'm usually available. If I'm not there to answer questions, I have a wonderful group of testers that answer questions. Plus other people in the group are helpful as well. You can comment on the videos. It doesn't always give me notifications of that though. Or you can email me at jenny@sincerelyjenpatterns.com. So thanks for watching. Thanks for buying my pattern. I hope you enjoyed, and I can't wait to see your bags. Please share them in my Facebook group, on Instagram. You can tag me at sincerelyjenpatterns or use the hashtag sincerelyjenpatterns. So I'd love to see what you make. Thank you.